Call the February USD 350 Board of Education meeting to order. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Okay. Any motion to approve?
Mr. President, move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consent agenda.
I don't think I have anything unusual to report here on the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions? Some of on the budget report, like the grants fund shows a negative 410%. That's the way the system reports it. We don't really set a budget amount on that. Money comes in and money goes out with grants. So there's a few of those that are like that, negative 950%. That's our federal money that we don't budget for that came in for the coronavirus stuff. That looks kind of funny, but budget looks good.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Patron comments. Okay. All right, first board policy updates.
We got to look at these policy updates, just standard changes based on changes in law, or the attorneys review with the Kansas Association of School Boards. They review those policies twice a year and update things. Some things have come up with the coronavirus situation on when we can cancel school and cooperation with the local health officer. The truancy form, that's a yearly thing that we have to update. A lot of these had to do with the health and wellness plans related to the pandemic, just things that have come up looking at policies. And so nothing out of the ordinary that I would say we need to question. I'd recommend just accepting those policy recommendations as they are.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve policy updates as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the policy updates as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, 2021-22 calendar.
I think we're pretty close on this calendar. We've had a chance to review it with our district leadership team and our teacher calendar committee. We've kind of tweaked this as we've gone along. This is really similar to what we would have had this year, absent the crazy year that we've had. So I think this is probably going to be the calendar. We don't need to rush it. We've got time. Take a second look at it. Haven't got a lot of feedback on the structure. Pretty similar structure. We put back in the early dismissal days. I don't think we need to take a full day off every month, but we do need time to get together with staff at least once a month. So we do have professional development time. Like in November, we don't have a structured day, so we throw in an early dismissal day where we can get a couple hours to meet. I know that's a challenge, but the 2 hours I think is better than sending kids home for a whole day. We've got the 2 weeks off at Christmas. This year's kind of going to be unusual that we could go a couple of days, not take the full 2 weeks. But one question that I've had come up more than once is, why don't we take Martin Luther King Day off? We have historically taken that day as an in-service day. The trouble with that is if we want to have any speakers come in or people come work with our teachers, we can't get anybody because lots and lots of school districts take that day. So we thought it's better to have the kids in school and we can learn about the day, and then we'll take a different day where if we want to have some structured professional development from an outside source, we can schedule that. So that's why we don't take off Martin Luther King Day for in-service. We do take President's Day. We coordinate with, that'd be February 21st next year. We coordinate with area school districts to get in some good professional development speakers that we couldn't afford to do on our own. And we go to a location. This year is our year to do that, but we're obviously not taking all our teachers to one location, but we do have a nationally known speaker that's going to help us with some teacher training. Spring break is now recommended that the Kansas Board of Regents sets a spring break week in all of the Regents schools, K-State, Wichita State, so on, and the community colleges would take that day, and our State Board of Education has recommended we also take that day, so it's maybe going to be a pretty much statewide spring break during that week. We try to stick with Barton because we have so many kids taking dual credit classes with them. Having a spring break that doesn't align with theirs makes that a challenge. And last day of school on May 18th. So, Mr. White, anything? Mrs. Knight, you're on the committee. Anything?
The only thing that was ever said was the Martin Luther King Day that you've already addressed, but.
Right. Any questions, concerns? Well, we'll bring that back. We'll get a little bit more input, but I was hesitant to rush it through, but I think we're ready to approve it, but it doesn't hurt to wait. Can I do it next time?
Thank you. Curriculum and schedules.
This is just a look at what we offer our kids. We've had a lot of curricular additions, environmental resources and wildlife, robotics. We had a creative writing. We can't get those in every year. Calculus is one that we have every year that just for whatever reason we didn't have the interest this year. And environmental resources and wildlife and robotics is another one that we'll still continue to try to have as long as there's interest. So I've got your high school course schedule here as it is this year. We did add our residential carpentry. There's good interest in that. I think the kids are learning a lot. It's a fun project for them. And it's coming along nicely. What else, Mr. White?
I think next year we'll look at adding a baking, an advanced baking class for Mrs. Patterson. I've had several students who've showed an interest in that. We'll do something different on our business. We'll offer a different business class. We don't have accounting this year. It's the same thing. We had a lack of interest. We only had one student sign up for it, so we'll offer those, that as a option again this year. It's typical in a small school. Some of those classes cycle year in and year out. So, but we'll continue to offer them.
Looking at our math curriculum right now, we offer calculus, and it's not a true calculus class that you can get college credit for, but it does prepare the kids for calculus. We're going through the process of looking at our math classes and what we offer, what makes the most sense, and looking at maybe a pre-calculus that would prepare the kids to take college math, college statistics, college calculus, rather than just the calculus. So I think darn near any degree anymore requires a statistics class, so weighing more heavily on that for a senior level math class. But we'll still offer the college algebra because that's also a need. Anything else on the high school?
Yeah, I think the other addition on the math we may make is like a consumer math type class for the third, that would be the third math course for the more traditional, not college-bound students, I guess. Would be
Right.
something we're looking at.
Right now we have a pre-algebra or basic algebra, and then do algebra 1 and then geometry. So really every kid has to get through geometry. not every kid's going to need the full-blown geometry class, the college preparatory geometry class, I guess. So looking at ways to make sure those kids can get their math credits and still get something useful out of that. Elementary-wise, you know, we get the kids 30 minutes of music and 30 minutes of PE every day, depending on the grade level. I think our fifth and sixth grade, they do half and half. So really, all of the elementary kids, K through 6, get 30 minutes of each. Art, we try to get that at least once a week. This year's been a challenge just with rotating the kids through. It's been a challenging setup anyway, because we have classes back to back to back. And with our coronavirus situation, we didn't feel that was a good situation, mixing those kids. So this year, for the most part, they've been every other week with our 1st through 4th grade. They all get some time in the computer lab once a week. And then their schedules are, their core classes, math, English language arts, and social studies and sciences, mostly scheduled based on the teacher's schedule. Any questions or interest in what we offer the kids, what we should be offering,
How's the personal finance gone since we made that kind of a necessity for all the students?
for the graduation requirement?
Right.
It's going pretty good. Kids are learning some valuable stuff in it, some of the more modern. Now, it's been a shift this year with the new teacher on what they are learning. We'll probably look at that curriculum and make some adjustments there as we go, but it's valuable for them, absolutely. I think there's a possibility we might be able to look at it in the future and see if we need a full credit or a half a credit as that requirement, but.
We have a full credit now?
We have a full credit now. I think the need could probably be done in a half credit, but as of right now, I think we'll leave it where it's at and evaluate that as we go. But it's been a good addition. It's a good requirement to have.
Any college students said that, they're lacking something they wish they would have had?
I've been disconnected. There's been times where I've been more connected with the kids and when they're out of school. Have you heard anything, Mr. White?
Well, this year, the students I've talked to, none of them are ready for what they're doing, just because the colleges are doing things different. But as far as what they've lacked in instruction in high school, I really don't have any information from anybody that says we really should offer this so that we're more ready to run around. I don't get a lot of that feedback even from our exit interviews we do with the kids.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Calendar change.
This is something that came about with our discussions with our district leadership team. A little bit of, I guess, background. A lot of districts, and we had this conversation of coming back to school in the pandemic. We need time to get ready for this crazy year. How are we going to get ready for the remote learners? Well, a lot of districts front-loaded their professional development. So they took all of their in-service days from the year, put them all at the beginning, and now they've ended up in a place where we're going to school every day of the week, the entire rest of the year, and we have no time to stop and breathe and learn new things or gather our wits, any of that. So the state has decided for the second semester they will waive professional development hours and count them as full instruction hours. Normally we count all our hours that we spend in professional development, we count half of those, and that counts towards the instructional minimum for the kids in class. So every hour the kids are in class, we count those. Half of the time we're in professional development, we count that. All of the time we're in parent-teacher conferences, we count that. So we add up all those hours. 1,116 hours is the minimum for every kid to call it a school year. So the state has said, rather than counting half, we'll waive up to 20 hours. So I would recommend that we do that for the second semester. We're going to have plenty of hours, barring any outbreak of the virus that we have to shut down, or taking several snow days. We should be in good shape, but I've got a form here that we filled out that I'll ask Derek to sign. It says we'll count 20 of those hours as full instruction time. We're still going to be above the minimum. I don't plan on taking any days off, except for I would have one recommendation on 2 days on the calendar. The district leadership team says we need time, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that. But we've got teachers that we still have kids learning remotely. We still have teachers that they've got kids in their class and they've got kids learning remotely. We considered at Christmas time saying, sorry folks, you need to send your kids to school. We didn't really think that was fair. We're not really done with this pandemic. So we do still have teachers that have kids learning at home and learning in their classroom. It still is a challenge. So what came out of that conversation is, can we get some more days? March 3rd, we're not having that junior high music festival. Bringing kids from all different schools and sticking 300 kids in our building, not a good idea right now. So we're not having that music festival. Initially we thought we're just going to have school that day, but my recommendation would be let's call that a professional development day. We're not going to lose any time on the minimum. It's already on the calendar. Parents are planning on having no school that day. Don't think that will be too much of a burden. And then having a day here in May, May 7th is the day that we've identified would be best for that. Let's call that one a professional development day. We need time to wrap up for the year. We're going to be talking about how we come into next year with all of our coronavirus relief funds. What are we going to do with those? Get kids back up to speed. So my recommendation would be to take March 3rd and May 7th as a professional development day. And that would be an official change in the calendar. So it requires board approval. Stand for any questions or input on that. We know it's a challenge for parents when their kids are not in school. March 3rd is on the calendar as no school anyway. May 7th is far enough out. I think that'll put us in better shape to finish out the year and start into next year.
Okay. Any questions, or can we get a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the dates of March 3rd and May 7th as professional development days. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the dates of March 3rd and May 7th as professional development days. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, board member activities. Thanks. Brandon? Sean?
Went out to Cimarron Saturday and watched our boys wrestle. It was good to see our kids represent St. John on the mat, so it's good.
Awesome. Carl?
I don't know anything.
Okay. Administrative, Mr. White.
I brought this up a few times, but we'll be doing our ACT and work keys testing, and I just really wanted to remind you guys with the ACT testing, since the state buying the test for every junior. With this year's report, when we get the report on this year's seniors, we will see a drop in our ACT scores. It's a difference between testing only the college-bound students versus testing every student. That makes sense. So we can expect to see a little bit of a decline. You'll probably see that statewide. And the work keys testing is more geared toward those kids who are in a CTE field, but we're going to give it to all juniors so they have it and have that certification as they leave. The KELPA test coming up at 17th is the Kansas English Language Proficiency Assessment. Just helps our dual language kids assess where they're at and let us know what interventions we need to make for them. In the process right now of NHS selection, and our induction ceremony will be February 28th to right now. We plan on going forward with that. Probably will limit numbers that go, which we'll set a limit, but I don't think it will affect the overall number anyway. That we're still going to be above what normally would show up for that, but we will have some limit in place. We get down to the activities, man, it's gone pretty fast this year, it seems like it. Year started out slow and now it's going fast, but Midwinter Classics in the books. Had a lot of compliments on how it was run, particularly considering the challenges we had. The biggest issue was the space between our games, but we kind of had to do that to get people cleared out of the gyms. As we look forward, Maxville has locked their girls into our tournament for sure. Little River, we're still talking to them, seeing if they can come in, but Sunrise wants to bring their girls. As it sits right now, if everybody follows through with their verbal commitments, we'll have 8 boys teams and 6 girls teams next year. And we'll, if another girl team wants to come in, we'll welcome them too. But anyway, I thought it was a success, and thank you to all you guys that helped with that too. Finished up junior high basketball. Our girls placed second in CPL tournament, our boys fourth. We are the only school in the league that had both the boys and the girls that made it out of Saturday. Hang your hat on something there. Just finished up Scholars Bowl. We didn't qualify from regionals to move on. It's kind of a tough day for us, according to Mrs. Spare, Norton Spare now, right? Okay. We do have junior high Scholars Bowl underway. They go to their first meet Thursday, and we have 10 kids out there, so that's a pretty good number for junior high Scholars Bowl. Mentioned wrestling. We did have 4 high school students that wrestled through Stafford. Now we're in the postseason, and they're representing St. John. That's the way that co-op works with quasi-team sports. So they're actually listed as a St. John wrestler. Caden placed 4th at regionals, and he goes on to Trigo, or at district, sorry, at Cimarron, and he goes on to Trigo. Morgan Gunter wrestled in the girls tournament, which girls wrestling is now sanctioned by Keisha. She placed 3rd and will wrestle at Ellis next week, sorry. So anyway, it's good to have them representing. Mr. Meyer mentioned that the St. John Music Festival's been canceled. That's the one that was on the 3rd that we just replaced with a professional development day. CPL Music Festival, there's a chance it might not happen, but they're also looking at virtual options for that. I don't think Barton County wants us at their facility with kids from 9 different schools. If it doesn't happen, Mr. Knight and I talked about this today, he will work on getting people to come in or Zoom in or something to be able to critique our kids and give them some feedback that's not just from him, so they get kind of that live feel of the performance and everything. So we're going to try to do something where the kids feel accountable to their performance and get some feedback from somebody else, even if the CPL festival doesn't go through. That's about all I have for today. Any questions?
Still have the prom, what's the,
Yep, we plan on going forward with prom as of now. We will, normally they built kind of a room out on the court with the walls and the ceiling. We're going to do open decorations to where it leaves it open, make it a bigger area. Promenade will probably be virtual. We'll still do that as of now. This can all change in a short time.
Are they doing some modified fundraising where they haven't had concession stands or any of that this year?
Yeah, they were able to do some, use some of the direct decorations and stuff from last year because that was purchased and they had some funds there.
Whatever they can't make up, we'll make up with district funds. We've, I'll tell you what, our activity fund between athletics and not getting ticket revenue is in rough shape. So that'll fall in the district a little bit with, so we want to make sure the kids have a prom and we don't want to send them out doing door-to-door fundraisers and stuff. We'll make it up.
I guess the other thing I should mention is, Keisha, it sounds like the executive board will be meeting again soon to talk about what they want to do for spring sports. All indication is that spring sports are a go, as is. They just don't know if they're going to limit how many people can be at a track meet or how they're, it'll be more about baseball crowds and stuff than track probably. But we may have some restrictions and limitations on that. Don't know how it's going to work. We're hoping we have the system up, our NFHS system at the field before our track meets start. Maybe it'll show track on TV okay. I don't know. We'll see how it'll work if we get, but we think we have a way to get internet out there now, so we'll at least have it for football next year.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer.
On my report, dyslexia is one thing that the state has been focusing on the last couple of years. That's been a challenge for schools to address that need and identify it. So we've got some responsibilities for training of our staff. We've got somebody coming in April 16th, 15th, mid-April for our required training. And then for every grade level, we'll have screening that needs to occur 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring. Seems like a lot. We already do that, K-6. We already do these screenings, these Ames Web assessments. So it's not going to be anything new. It will be new for our junior high and high school. At those older grades, it's a quick assessment, 20 minutes, which is good data to have anyway. If there shows any deficiency, then we need to further assess and make sure we provide interventions and keep those kids up to speed. I think as a profession, I don't know that we've done a great job with identifying dyslexia in kids and intervening there to help. So I think that's the state's perspective there. So it's a lot of direction from the state, but something new that we'll be working on. Our accreditation process, we've taken, this was actually year 4 of our 5-year accreditation process. We lost some ground last spring, obviously, not being in session. The state gave us an option to just say, okay, we're going to pause this year, we're not going to mess with it. We still need to be working on some things, but we're just trying to keep the doors open and keep kids in school and make it through the year. So really year 4 will be next year, but we're trying to keep those things in mind that we're working on. We did a lot with the trauma-informed schools. So we're trying to keep that ramp back up, so we're ready to go on that here next year. School operations, The question that keeps coming to mind is, when are we done with this? You know, we've done so much work. When do we have to not wear masks? When can we put the kindergarten, first and second grade in the same lunchroom? I don't know. I don't know when that comes. You know, we've got 35 of our 80 staff members that have chosen to take the vaccine. Is there a certain number of staff and kids that need to have the vaccine before we can say, okay, we're good here? Or I don't have good information for you on when we're done with this. We're just anticipating on continuing to do the things we're doing through the end of this school year. And we'll reevaluate. Hopefully we're done with that sooner. Does anybody have any questions on things that have been going on? Things we should be doing, things we're screwing up? I don't know. I mean, everybody's done well with this. We've had one day we couldn't go to school, and that was when we had our food service situation. Otherwise, we've been lucky or good or whatever. We've made it through. So I feel good about where we're at. I just wish I could tell folks, if all these benchmarks are met, throw the masks in the trash and let's move on. But I don't have that information. And I think we're all in the same boat with that. I did mention to you earlier about the math curriculum and our resources. We're looking at that. That'll be a big expense coming up. Our textbooks and resources are overdue. So we were looking at doing that last spring, but that fell apart. So we've got things in place. We'll be hitting that hard here in the next couple of months. So you'll be asked to approve some contracts there. Hopefully by April. I'm sure you all know that the Quivira situation is ongoing. The Audubon Society of Kansas has filed a lawsuit to invalidate the agreement that was made between the Fish and Wildlife Service and Quivira, and thank you, Darren, for sending that to me. If you need some time to kill, read the whole thing, read the whole lawsuit. But a patron had asked that should all of the government entities get together and file an amicus brief. So a friend of the court brief for this lawsuit to say, this is going to hurt us, similar to what we did a couple of years ago when came up with a letter that said it's going to cause $125 million of harm to our economy, and we signed off, all the school districts, all the cities, the county, we all signed off on it. So maybe something similar. That might be something to do, but right now I think I'm talking with Carolyn Dunn, and she's been talking to others, because she kind of headed up that effort to get that letter together to send to the Fish and Wildlife Service. She thinks that more attention to the issue is not good right now. As far as the lawsuit, they're hoping to just dismiss it and let the agreement go through as is. So, as of now, I don't have a recommendation that we ought to do something, but it is, keep that in the back of your mind that, I mean, obviously we want that agreement to go forward as is, but I guess if it continues and is not dismissed, maybe then we move on something. So, unemployment fraud has been a huge issue. Mrs. Fisher it's been a good chunk of her time here in the last month or so. It has nothing to do with us. We have no idea where a data breach came from, but it's nationwide. somebody filed for unemployment on my behalf, and a lot of our employees. I got a notification of it, the school got a notification of it. We report it, I report it. They still sent me a benefits card, so I have an unemployment benefits. I'm not, obviously not spending them. We've had people that we didn't get notification that somebody filed for unemployment, but they got a 1099 form in the mail that said they collected unemployment. So, state of Kansas, I read an article today that they're estimating $700 million in fraud that the state may have lost. That's not verified, but that's their estimate right now. But this is nationwide, so it's a huge deal. So we've had a lot of people. 30?
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Monthlies?
We get, like the last 2 weeks, we've probably got 1 to 3 notices in the mail every day. It's crazy. Now it's just getting worse.
So obviously, identity theft is a concern. We've, Elisa and Marla have put out lots of information to the staff about you need to go through this process. We have to report it as fraud to the Department of Labor, but suggest that everybody goes through the process to check their credit and put a fraud alert on their credit report and those things. But I know of at least one employee that's had somebody try to open an account in their name, fraud other than just the collecting unemployment. But I'm not sure how the unemployment fraud works when you apply for unemployment in my name and then the money comes to me. But I guess maybe they do it enough that they get some of the money sent to a different address. For some people, it goes to that address and miss out. So it's a big deal.
Mr. Meyer sent out another email today saying, please make sure you go and do this, the steps that we recommended. And I don't know if they read that because Josh sent the email out and not me. But this afternoon I had a person email me and say, oh, I just threw that in the trash because I knew it wasn't right. Okay. So maybe they'll take this a little bit more serious that he sent the email out saying you have to follow these steps. No, you don't throw anything in the trash.
Yeah, it's not just schools, it's not just Kansas, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
Daycare, just wanted to keep that out in front of you, that Danton, Hilton and Jamie Getty, they've been talking about a solution to our daycare problem in town, and there's been some discussions of could the school get involved. We've talked about it behind the scenes, I guess, off and on for several years, that could the school get involved, maybe be a program with our high school kids. We've just never taken it to a level that, hey, let's put some money into this and do it. I mean, it wouldn't need to be a thing that would be a moneymaker, it just needs to break even. Sure don't want to have our school district be competing with private businesses that have daycare. But if somehow we can help in that situation. So I don't have a solution there, but we'll be talking to some folks about could we run a school-operated daycare. It could be a benefit for our employees. Could be a good recruiting tool that whether we offer, we can just insure them a daycare spot, it's not free, or maybe it's discounted, or it could be free. It could be a good recruiting tool for young families. It could be a situation where we can coordinate with our preschool and get kids from daycare to preschool very easily. If we were close here on site, could use our food service folks to provide lunches and run it very efficiently. So just something to keep out there that we may be looking at. Still looking at our coronavirus relief funds. The state's been pushing real hard that this money, we need to be looking at kids and the needs first. Kids are losing out on time of instruction. We need to get those kids back up to speed. And then look at infrastructure. We've got a lot of infrastructure needs. We've been lucky enough here to stay on site most of the time, so I think our learning loss isn't as great as some of those districts that maybe in the larger urban areas that they've not been in school at all. So we can maybe focus more of our funds toward the infrastructure. We don't have as much of a learning loss. But there is still a need. So I don't have anything further on that at this point, just we're looking at those needs. Strategic planning is something that we discussed earlier in the year, maybe having KSB or another consultant come in and instead of just setting our goals for each year, that we want to look down the road a little further. We've got, one example would be, we've got a lot of facility needs. We've got our lease purchase agreement that we've got 3 more years of payments after this year. Is it necessary to start looking at a bigger project, maybe another lease purchase, perhaps a bond issue to take care of all of our needs? Not that that's where it needs to be directed, but all in all, looking more, let's look 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. So if you recall, we had kind of talked about that and thought, well, let's look at it this spring. So just throwing that out there, it's almost spring, maybe something we need to start talking about that if we want to do that, collect some community members and look more purposefully at planning for our district, what that means. So, I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you.
Have we ever got any set up with the local police department on drug dog or anything? Did that just kind of fall through?
No, we haven't. He had a dog and then didn't have a dog and then now I think has a good dog.
He has old certifications, he's
Yeah.
a good dog. In fact, he's asked me about it, and I said, we just need to sit down with Josh and find out, but I think he's planning on, he hasn't run any lockers at all yet with it. I think he's wanted to set something up to where he can walk through some lockers in a controlled situation. He gets his picture out there a lot, he's busting some people in counties all around us. So. Pretty good dog.
Good.
Any question?
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Executive session.
Yeah, we'll need an executive session, and let's include Mr. White and myself. It's 20 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move the board go into executive session, discuss the performance qualifications of specific employee pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA with Mr. Meyer and Mr. White to be included. And that we turned open session at 6:54 in this room.
More time. You wanted 20 minutes.
Oh, 20 minutes, excuse me.
7:05.
Yeah, okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session to discuss the performance and qualifications of specific employees pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA, with Mr. White and Mr. Meyer to be included, and that we return to open session at 7:05 in this room. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I have Mr. White's contract here. I'd recommend we roll that over, that 2-year contract over for the next 2 years.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we roll our principal, Mr. White's contract over for 2 years. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Not rid of him yet.
And on page 34 of your supporting documents, you have the updated list of supplemental contract. That would be an addition of Tori Perez for assistant high school track and Alan Adams for assistant junior high track, and Danton Hilton and Justin Nusser as a split coach for golf.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the revised supplemental contract list. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay.
Future agenda items there on your list. Nothing major coming up.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.